What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Great Men with Shane Sams. I'm your host, Shane Sams, and I've got an amazing guest today. This is a buddy of mine that was introduced to me by another buddy of mine. His name was Marcus Gersey. You can go back and find his episode on the show. And I have been dying to get this guy on the podcast ever since we first talked. His name is Mark England. He's a former teacher, a former cage fighter. He's been to 5 continents, 4,000 clients, 10,000 coaching hours, a TEDx talk, and nearly 500 certified coaches out there going into the world with a methodology we're going to unpack today. He is the founder of Enlifted and the creator of the Enlifted method, a mindset framework built on some deceptively simple things: words, stories, and breath. Mark, welcome to the show, man. What's going on?
A lot. That was like a WrestleMania 7.
Well, if you know anything about me, I'm all wrestling all the time. I'm pretty sure that professional wrestling to me is our highest form of human art and creation. It really is, and you can learn a lot about life in the world from the legacy of Vince McMahon, the good and the bad.
Yeah, that whole live in the majority thing.
Live in the majority, man. He has quite the story. And I'm sure, like a lot of other guys, when he looks back, he's got some shitty stories. And
yeah, join the club.
Yeah, no, dude. I was reading. I read something on your website. You actually said that like most of the men you've worked with, your clients, have shitty stories, man, about themselves, about their past, that just haunts them their entire life. And I know that I had to really, really rewrite some shitty stories in my life before I was able to move forward. So like what does that actually look like, when somebody walks through your door and you hear them tell you this shitty story, and how is that shaping their story going forward in their life right now?
Well, it's been on repeat long enough for them to go, I need some help with this. Because it's not the fact that we have a shitty story once or hear a shitty story once. It's the repetition of the shitty stories. It's like that nasty divorce. If you only ever thought about that one time, would it ever be a problem? No, it's the repetition of the not so greatest hits. And part of the reason that those stories, the ones that haunt us, hurt us, even annoy us, are problematic is, like I said, they repeat themselves. And part of the reason they repeat themselves is because they're in our heads. That's where people keep the scary stories. And I understand why. People are like, I'm doing everything in my power to not come in contact with those stories and the feelings associated with those stories, but I keep coming in contact with those stories. Those buttons keep getting pushed. So when someone walks in the door, it's usually we start cleaning some things up. Very rarely does someone book in for, I tell our coaches this a lot, very rarely does somebody book in for a coaching session when the sun's out and everything's going well and they quote unquote got this. No, they have a problem. They're struggling. They're stuck. And that's going to be repetitive stories in their head. So half of our job is to go help them get those scary stories and title them and write them out and get them on paper. Because there's a big difference between stories kept in the head and stories kept on paper. I can absolutely elaborate on that more. And that's where the conversation almost always starts.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this in my life. I think me being a speaker, a teacher, and other things allowed me to wrestle with stories in a different way than other people do. Because, like, when you're teaching a class, it's all about the story you're telling them. It's all about taking the history, taking the lesson, taking the whatever, and putting it into something that they can follow along with and relate to. Same thing with being on stage as a speaker. Storytelling, especially when you're selling something, but we're always selling something when we speak because we're trying to sell ideas, we're trying to sell products, whatever it is. Like, there's a craft to it, and almost like a non-linear rearranging that happens on stages. Like, timelines don't exist to me when you're crafting a story for the stage. You can bounce around. You're trying to craft that narrative. And like, when I got my 10,000 hours in on stages and I started looking back at the stories that I kept telling myself, the shitty stories, all the different things, I noticed that my internal world fights to keep that story what you have. It fights for those memories, those feelings, those everything that you do, and it keeps us stuck there. And when we avoid it because the feelings feel bad, that was really important what you just said. It's not the story itself that people are uncomfortable with. It's how it made them feel in that memory, then manifest now, whether it's anxiety, fear, whatever the story generates. I noticed that when you go to those fears and you go to those stories, if you don't deal with it, you just recreate it in the next chapter of your life. You just build a new version of it. Like I had a story that there was a certain organization of my family constellation, my brothers and my mom and my dad, and I had this story that was holding me back. And I was thinking I was doing the work working through it, but then I looked at my life in different chapters and I was like, God, I'm just recreating that dynamic over and over again. What do you say to guys when that story that they're thinking about does bring up those uncomfortable feelings and they bury it down or hide it?
Yeah, you're in a good club, because that's what most people do with those stories, and it's not out of a lack of very intelligent people do this. Okay, very unintelligent people do this. It's not an intelligence issue. It's not a definitely not a deservance issue. It's simply an education issue. We both come from an education background. I've got a degree in education. I'm sure you were formally trained, and just specifically about English, high school English class. I didn't have any courses, classes, or conversations on how to use my words to dismantle my victim mentality,
Mm,
or how to use my words to stay focused on what's important, keep the drama low, build myself up in my imagination. Oh, and while I'm at all of those things, unlock my breath, because there are some markers of a healthy, well-developed mindset. Good breathing, low and slow breathing, abdominal
mm,
breathing is a telltale sign that they're in control of their story.
mm,
And most people are not in control of their story, and they haven't learned how to control it. So when someone says my life is out of control, I know what they're saying. What they're saying is that my story is out of control because it's going really fast. Again, back to that. Stories kept in the head go really fast. And the faster the story goes, the more out of control it's going to feel, and the harder it is to change. Take that to the bank, everybody. The faster the story goes, the harder it is to change. The second
mm,
half of that is the fastest way to slow the story down is to write it down. We have 3 speeds of storytelling. Stories in the head go the fastest, spoken stories, that's the middle speed, and stories that are written down, that's the slowest form of storytelling that we have. And it's also the most detailed form of
mm,
storytelling that we have. Generally, it's more than generally, it's almost exclusively, because it's going slower and it's externalized, and usually there's less emotional charge to writing things out. And so because you have that time to put the words together, you get more detail. And when it comes to the cleanup stuff, the devil is in the details. So
yeah.
making life easier on yourself massively is pick up that pen, even though it feels like it weighs 500 pounds, and get the specific events, the most painful shit you got. It's a warrior's path. Title them and write out what happened. Full sentences in conversational write. Full sentences with punctuation, conversational writing, like you were telling somebody what happened. And that in and of itself will do a ton when it comes to your ability to observe the story as opposed to being sucked into it. And I'll elaborate about 20 seconds more on that. Stories kept in the head, like I've said 4 or 5 times now, go very fast. They're extremely disorganized. They swirl, seemingly infinite. Stories that are written down are finite. They're way more organized, and they're also still, and it's
Mm,
externalized. So you can see the words. And then when you're coaching someone, it's very clarifying. That's a massive understatement for you and your client to be able to see the same story at the same time. Most of our coaching is virtual for the Enlifted coaches. I mean, you can do it with a pen and a piece of paper with somebody in the same room, and it's mostly off of Google Docs. So if
Mm,
I was doing a coaching session with someone in your town, they would have a Google Doc. I would have the same Google Doc, Zoom screen, share screen. We're on the Google Doc at the same time, getting those stories out, and we can both type real time and edit. And that is a wonderful way.
yeah,
It makes life so much easier for the coach because it starts the process of getting them out of that smarty pants coaching. I 1-800 hotline. I got all the right answers for your life hotline coaching. That shit sucks. It's not effective.
totally. It's not.
And
That's not coaching. That's telling. That's telling. That's someone telling who hasn't got it figured out. That's not the point of coaching. You said something there I've never really put together. I've done a lot of work, and like I've, one of the most I do a lot of IFS, which is like internal family systems, parts work, stuff like that. And
like
one of the
family
big
constellations.
family constellations, but it's like internal family systems. It's kind of related to family constellations.
Okay.
One of the most helpful things for sovereignty is being able to be the observer of your own life, like
Ooh,
being able to observe the past, observe the present, observe your vision coming to pass in the future. And like, I never thought about that. One of the things I say a lot on stage is greatness flows through your lips and fingertips. Like it is important to get all that out of you and manifest it somehow into the world just to start wrestling with it. But like when you write it down, you are physically becoming the observer because once you're the writer of the story, and then when you get to the end of the story, you can go back and now read it. You can read it as you wrote it and observe like how you're experiencing the past. And I don't know about you, man, but like when I started doing this, like journaling is it ain't soft, it ain't weak. Everybody should be journaling, writing down things from the past. Like that's something that all men should be doing to tame this fire inside of them sometimes. But I realized as I started writing them down, as I started speaking them, as I started wrestling them with therapists at retreats or whatever, I noticed incongruency. Like I sometimes when I wrote the stories down more than once, they were a little different. And then like when I realized that, I was like, well, wait a minute. Maybe the story I've been telling myself in my head at light speed for my entire life isn't
light speed.
100% true. And then I read this amazing book. It's called The Courage to Be Disliked. It's got a Japanese author's name. I can't remember his name, Ikioda or something like that. And it's based on the work of Alfred Adler, who was a psychologist like Freud, Jung, people like that. And in that book, I learned that memory is not accurate. Like that's why we have to have witnesses in court, like multiple witnesses. And like if you try to remember something I said 10 minutes ago when we first started talking, you're not going to be able to write it down verbatim. You go back a year, you're 80% max remembering what actually happened. And if me and Mark are in the same room, we remembered something different. Now, you go back 20 years to your shitty story's beginning when it was in childhood, a teenager, or whatever, and you think that's true? You think you are remembering that with 100% accuracy? Bullshit. So when you realize that the story is a story, it's not what really happened. The feelings are real. The lack of safety, the protection that you created the story to protect yourself, those are all real, but they're not true anymore. And that was what kind of freed me was like you said, seeing the story, observing the story instead of being a character in it. I'm actually the author of it, and then realizing that what I'm remembering in that story probably isn't 100% accurate. That means I can edit it and I can change it going forward. Does that make sense?
Hell yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, a couple things come to mind on that. It's just story. It's just a story. People talk about which feels more malleable,
Mm,
everybody. Your belief systems or a story.
mm,
They're the same thing.
mm-hmm.
They're the same thing. One's a fancy word, one's a simple. My belief systems about fill in the blank versus my stories about fill in the blank. Don't even get me started on my truth.
Oh yeah,
My truth. My truth. I hear somebody say my truth. I'm like, yeah, you mean your opinion.
totally, bro. Man, but dude, the TikToking of our language when it comes to
Bro.
mental health and all this shit is stupid. Like
It's
these
retarded.
words, it is, man. It's like these words that have been co-opted are so generalizing, like safety and my truth and just all autonomy, all these different things that we label and blanket over everything as a cop out, a
Toxic.
generalizing cop out. It's toxic to actually healing and growing. And things like but when you get simple, like you said, like words on paper. Read the story, observe the story, and then also question it, man. Like I don't think men are not given the language in our society of one being able to describe their actual feelings, two being able to question anything because we're cookie cuttered into these roles of protector, provider, whatever you want to say. These are all not bad things, but like we are trying to pigeonhole ourselves into a story, and we can't question it. And if you can't question your story, then it's just gonna be the same way. You know, we all know guys that loop the same story, same thing they've been talking about for 10 damn years over and over again. It's because they've accepted the story. They will fight to defend it. Do you ever have clients that argue with you when you discover the lack of truth in their story, and then they're like, "No, no, 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 it's my story. That's my nope. That's my story. I'm sticking to it," and they just defend it with their life.
Been a long time since I've had that because of the way that we go about working with stories. And when I was, and you know, I've bust on a lot of stuff in the coaching space, and I've made, I can't say all the mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes multiple times. And so at one point in time, I was an all the right answers coach. I was a smarty pants coach. And that's in those early years before I eventually started to learn. That's when people would push back on my opinion about their opinion. Now I have no opinion about their opinion. I'm Switzerland. We call it clean coaching. And you know, I'll riff on this in a couple different directions, and then I'll give a specific example because you've already mentioned four-stepping. We'll go into that. If someone has a story and they want to go in there, I'll go in there. If someone has a story and they do not want to go in there, you couldn't pay me $1 million to go in there. Why would I want to go in there if they wouldn't want to go in there? And I'm also not going to nudge them. I'm not going to say, you know, you really need to deal with this. I don't know if they really need to deal with that or not. Not my business. And then getting their stories on paper and airing them out. So, and you mentioned, you know, not being able to question your story. It's super hard. It's super hard for the most intended men. It's super hard for the most well-learned men. It's super hard for very intelligent men and everybody else too, to question stories, that ideas, sentences, belief systems when they're in their head. Why? Yeah. Because it's their own voice. What's more seductive than our own voice in our own head? Of course, I got it right.
It's also that the stories crystallize into these beliefs, but then they metastasize into identities. And once you've put on that cloak of identity, that's you, man. That's produced everything you've done. And if that goes away, you got to figure out, you got to rewrite a story. You got to come up with something new. And that's as scary as going back into the past at the hard stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Teddy Atlas said a boxer gets 30% better overnight by winning the belt. And the only thing that changed is he's the champ now.
Yeah.
And he identifies himself as the champ now. And so when someone identifies themselves, let's say they're using a lot of soft talk, thinks, might, maybe, sort of, guesses, kind of, almost likes, tries, hopefully, one days, possibly, probablys. If those words are in their language, they are going, because 2 + 2 = 4, they're going to create a lot of indecision. And if they do that for a prolonged period of time, eventually they will identify themselves as an indecisive person. And the moment they identify themselves as an indecisive person, they just got 30% better at being indecisive.
That's a good word, man. Yeah.
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 Nobody likes that shit.
They're the indecisive champ.
No, I just have a
protect the belt.
Dude, yeah, I'm a heavyweight champ of catastrophizing. And you know, you know, I'm look at the word, and they put just in there to make it even more dramatic. I'm just a really indecisive person. Well, guess what? What if you asked, how am I indecisive? You know, why do I talk myself out of opportunity so often versus how do I talk myself out of opportunity so often? The quality of our questions predicates the quality of our answers. And that's baked into how we coach at Enlifted. So the opposite of smarty pants, I have all the right answers for your life coaches are good questions coaches. There's a directionality, massive, couldn't be any more. It's a 180 difference between answers and questions. And if you all that are listening, if you get your head, if just this is the only thing that you take from this conversation, it was worth your time, is that answers push, questions pull. Answers, I tell them, questions, they tell them. So through questions, we help people get those scary stories out of their head. Step one, title it, write it out. Now it's externalized, finite still. Step two, read the damn thing. Let's see what happens. Step three, slow the story down. Read that same story. No need to go anywhere else. Slow it down by 30%. So read it at 70% of your normal rate of speech. When someone slows down their rate of speech, the breath is going to loosen up, which is one of the most important things to do when helping people change stories. The faster the story goes, the tighter the breath is in the chest. Good luck changing your client's mind or your own mind while the breath is high and tight. And then step four, same story, same slow, smooth read. And at the end of each sentence, you get a full breath in.
Yeah.
And as the breath loosens up and descends, the picture zooms out and you go from the participant to the observer. And so when I help people facilitate that experience for themselves, I'm answering that question, long-winded, valuable, longer-winded. When I help them go from the participant to the observer, it's really hard to push back on that. It's really hard to argue that because I'm not offering an opinion. I'm offering a different perspective.
And it's also like a manifestation of like a piece of advice that a lot of people get, like, is like, okay, if your friend was in that situation, what would you tell them? And this is actually, I've never heard this style of framework to become the observer. It might be the best framework I've ever heard of that, of how when you say like be the observer, like what the hell does that mean? But if you say it, if you do this process, you become the observer, and now you can literally look into that story as if it were another person. And we almost always know what to do. Men know what to do deep inside of them. They just can't get to it because the stories are like often in the way. But by writing it out, by slowing it down, by breathing and then slowing the breath again, you detach from the story, which is probably the first step of detaching from the identity that story like actually created,
Exactly. We're the same person, just differently.
Totally.
Yeah.
Except you can grow a beard, and I look like a 17-year-old if I don't grow up for 17 months because I have no hair in these parts of my face. I don't know why, but your beard is magnificent. So that's how you can tell me and Mark apart when you see us at Great Men events or at Mark's Enlifted events. It's the one guy's with the beard, and the other guy does not have a beard.
Shane, you had me at that Southern drawl, buddy. We got on a call. I was driving around. I was parked in Joshua Tree, and we got on a call, and he started talking. I said, "Oh Lord, thank you for sending me somebody else with a
one of us,
well-developed."
one of us, one of us.
Felt right at home, man. Felt right at home.
Yes, sir.
That is a big deal, in my opinion. A breakthrough. So that's the Enlifted definition of a level 1 breakthrough, is going from the participant to the observer. Story in the head, the story's in you, you're in the story's in your client's still in the story. After all these years, that's why it still feels so real, because we're still participating in some weird metaphysical way that I don't understand, nor do I need to understand. Get the story out and unlock the breath. We zoom out and go to the observer. Here's a good story about that. And then also, you mentioned identity. Many times, many times, there's one sentence in each story that holds the identity together. We call them the Lord of the Rings spells. So spell, the definition of a spell, Webster's, not mine, is a word or a combination of words of great influence. Here's two stories. So we did an Enlifted event, and I'll make these punchy. We did an Enlifted event in 2023. the first woman I worked with, she wanted to work on these residual panic attacks that she was having. Dr. Broken Record over here, tell me a little bit more about it. She did. It created this feeling in her. And I said, cool. When was the first time you ever felt those feelings? Does it take you back to a time frame or specific event? She goes, oh, a specific event. And I said, what happened? And she just said, well, I had a panic attack when it was the first night before school when I was 7. And I had her title it and write it out. And we 4-stepped that thing. And so the backstory was she just made this shit up in her head that I have to get everything right in school for the rest of my schooling. Otherwise, my parents will not love me. And she's laying in bed, this little 7-year-old girl, the night before she went to school for the first time, and she had her first panic attack. We 4-stepped that thing, same 4 steps. And on the other side of that 4th step, I said, what happened when you got the breath in there? That's the question after step 4. And she paused and thought about it. She said, it's the difference between being in a horror movie and watching a horror movie. And I said, it's hard to describe it better than that. Here's another one that goes directly to the identity. This was about a month ago. I was on a discovery call with a woman about our certification. She was a breathwork coach, and she was asking, hey, will these certifications help with presentations? And I said, yes, they will, because we teach presentation skills in the second half of level 2. And I said, well, and what specifically is the problem? What are you dealing with? She described that she gets in front of people and her breath locks up. So the breathwork coach's breath gets locked up when she gets in front of people.
As you do.
Very common.
we often coach the things that trip us up.
Isn't that interesting?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man.
Isn't that interesting? And her brief description of this experience, this pattern, brought up a set of feelings in her. And I do the same thing. Hey, when was the first time you ever felt that? Does that take you back to a time frame or a specific event? Oh, it reminds me of when my parents used to fight when I was young. Cool. Do you remember the worst fight they ever had? Most of the time you're going to get a yes on that. She goes, yeah. Title it like a title to a movie. Thanksgiving fight at my uncle's house. And she never titled and written that story down. Why would she? She titled it, wrote it down, 4 steps. So we unlocked the breath, got it out, aired it out. And there was one sentence that held that whole thing together, which dominated her identity up until the time that she changed the words. And that sentence was actually just one word. My father spent all of his money on drugs and didn't take care of us. Now, what is that spell going to do? That spell, because 2 + 2 = 4, it's going to create the victim-villain dynamic. Her dad's the villain. They're the victim. Everything that he did in his life was about them. It's going to force her to take things personally. And what do you think she's going to do when she walks into her adult relationships?
Oh, yeah.
Take things more personally.
Yeah.
And so I had her repeat that sentence a few times with a breath in between, loosen it up, a hot spell. And then I had her scratch out the word us at the end and put in the word himself. And her head snapped back. And she goes, he spent all of his money on drugs and didn't take care of himself.
That's it.
And then waterworks and this exhale that had been in there for probably a long time, take out the probably, came out and then then we kept talking about some things. But that's the level that we play at, Shane. I'm a simple guy by nature and nurture, and there's a lot of way smarter people in this mindset space. I worship at the altar of simplicity.
Yes.
Okay. That's the rubber meets the road. Oh, I changed my mind. You're using different words. I see things differently now. You're using different words. I had a cognitive shift. Oh, you're using different words. I reframed how I was thinking. You're using different words. That's where the action's at.
It's so interesting that you do that on the word level, because I storycraft and this stuff just fascinates me on how people come to the same conclusion, because like I find it, because you were an English teacher, right? That's what you taught. You were
no.
or what kind of teacher were you?
international education, so general education.
In general education,
And
international
I was a
thing,
PE teacher specific, so I taught PE in my
which is
degrees.
see, like that right there is anchoring in breath, because we all know about athletes and physical like, mentality, and like this leaning into the words of it, like when you found that words and you edited the old story, right? I got a buddy of mine that I go to journeys with and hang out at retreats with, and he always says it's never too late to have a good childhood. I love that
You
quote.
said that. You said I was like, yeah, man, that's cool and
That
real.
it's real. It's real because because if the story isn't 100% true, and the story is actually a story you wrote and worded, then you are the author of that story. And an author can go create a second edition. The author can release a different volume. And I look at this, I was a history teacher,
Mm.
and I think that's flavored. Like I did this for over a decade. I was I got my degree in history, education, teaching, and all that stuff. And like I view it much more as a historian.
Mm.
And we all know that history is written by the victors, baby. The story is not what happened. The story is the interpretation to the best of our ability of the facts that we can assume or know, right? And that's a lot how I look at stories too, is reinterpreting that story, like reinterpreting what it could be, right? Like, there was this one story that I had where this teacher I had when I was like in, I believe it was first grade, she would spank me preemptively before class every single day to scare me into behaving, because she had heard from another teacher that I was very rowdy. Like I was ADD, I was crazy, I was having fun, I was just enjoying life, baby. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be in school. I'm not a school guy.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying? And she would
Yeah.
spank me every day before class. And the only way that it got found out was because I came home one day and I was changing clothes and my mom saw bruises all over my butt. And in that story, in that story, I remember the day my mom went into that school, and hell hath no fury like my
Mm.
mother that day, son. That was a Southern mama going to
Mm.
war for her child. And 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 I have an amazing mother. I love my mother, but there were times, like we don't realize when we're kids, like parents are going through stuff too. They're having a life. They're having hard times. They're having things, and sometimes your parents aren't always there for you, right? And you got to kind of regulate yourself and learn how to do that. And there were some other instances with female teachers throughout my entire childhood where I went into adulthood like women want to hurt me. I mean,
Mm.
that was the belief that came
Mm.
from that woman. No matter what I do, I don't even get the opportunity to prove myself. Women want to hurt and control me. And that haunted me for, I look back on it now and I can see it everywhere where it manifested, like along the way. And then I went back, and in my work, like that story was reinterpreted as that woman did not know how to lead young boys. That was not her fault. She had maybe had some experiences in the past that she was trying to prevent. She was much older. She was near retirement, and she just had no patience for it. And then I re-shifted the spotlight of that story to my mother. And I was like, my mother wanted to kill someone for me. My mother wanted to protect me. That the woman in my life was the hero of that story. It's not all women want to hurt and control me. It's some people are bad, and I have to be alert for that, or they're going through their own problem, and it's lightning rodding me. But like women in general do not want to hurt me. Women in general probably want to protect me and honor me. But it took 5 years of reinterpreting 10 other stories and figure to get to that story and shift the spotlight, change the interpretation, flip a few words to where now the conclusion is not I'm a victim, women are hurting me no matter what I do. It's no, the women who know me most are on my team, and they're going to rise up and protect me when I need it and help me when I need it. It's crazy, man, when you do it, when you feel that snap of that story changing,
Good word.
it changes your life. I mean, it really does, because now you can do it. You know what I'm saying?
Also, yes, very. Back it up 20 seconds, everybody, and listen to that part again.
Mm, mm. Have you ever had guys come in with stories like that relationally, like especially with? I think where it manifests more than anywhere is in with your significant other, your romantic relationships. You can't hide your stories from someone who lives with you. You just can't, especially a woman who can intuitively
Sniff them out.
sniff them out. And when those things come up, you start bouncing off of each other in the mirror, and you think it's the relationship, but it's really not. You know what I'm saying? But so many people want to do marriage counseling and marriage this and marriage that and what's going on between us, when really it's the story going on in both your heads that are causing that problem.
Yeah. That whole victim mentality, it's an equal opportunity destroyer.
Mm. Let's define that real quick
Okay.
for everybody. How do you define a victim mentality? Because I think that also can be weaponized in a relationship if you're not careful. You know, you're being the victim. You're being the victim. But like, what? How do you define a victim mentality?
Most people, they've never heard the definition of the victim mentality or a definition of the victim mentality, much less written it down. And so I invite everybody that's listening, pause this, or maybe you have a pen and paper nearby, get a pen and piece of paper and write this down, because something happens when that happens. So I'll recite it first time slow, and then I'll speed it up the second time and put a little context on it, and then it'll very likely lead. I mean, you and I have a valuable, fun, entertaining conversation in any direction, Zins included. So, okay, slow. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence.
That's important. That last part. If you're writing this down, right, underline it.
Yes. Yeah. In the second sentence, the victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. So here it is sped up with a little polish. The victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person tends, it's a tendency, everybody. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim mentality depends, circle that word, on a habitual, underline that word, thought process and attributions. That second sentence is right between the eyes, right where it belongs. The victim mentality depends. So it has to have a habitual, which accurately implies duration and addiction, thought process. What's a thought process? Glad you asked. It's how you put your words together. We all have one. And then attributions. What's an attribution? It's a characteristic. And after the words, the second thing that we focus on is breathing. Words and breath. So mindset, the Enlifted definition of mindset, is the story that we tell ourselves. And that story is made of words and breath. And when you know what it is that you're working on, and then two, what it's made of, you got a shot. You got a shot.
Yeah. You got the opportunity to actually unwind it and erase it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Most people think mindset is just becoming, most people think mindset is listening to a David Goggins podcast on 3x speed with an extra
Who's going to carry the boats?
No X.
Who's going to carry
You don't
the
know
boats?
me, son.
You don't know me, son. You don't know me, son.
Man. Dude, we're my business partner. He's great. He's a videographer. Anyway, and we're doing some videos, recording some videos, some IG reels.
You poking some fun of some boats? Are you gonna poke?
Oh
some
yeah,
fun?
dude. Yeah, one of the videos we're making it's the title is Netflix and David Goggins. So,
let's go.
Yeah. So no,
throw those stones, baby.
It's Netflix and chill, everybody. And so what it's going to be, you already know the words. So Netflix and David Goggins. I'm going to be on the couch. We'll probably just use his wife and we'll be next to each other, and like she's getting ready to watch a movie. We're going to watch a movie, and I'm just sitting there like. She's like, "Are you okay? You seem a little tense. Who's gonna carry the boats? Who's gonna carry the boats? Are you? Is everything okay? You don't know me, son." You jump up and like, dude, that people think mindset is just becoming. It's. Oh, I gotta get harder and stronger and break through everything and become unbreakable and just crush it. Dude, it's a gear. Yes. Work that become stronger and harder and more
Totally. There
resilient.
is there is value to it. I'm not
Big
saying
time.
that it's not valuable, because there are times in life, you know, I kind of view it like jumping into a cold pool. Like, Sam, sometimes you just got to jump. I mean, you got to go, you know? But there is a false sense of resolution in, I can just say 20 affirmations into my mirror in the morning, and then I'm just going to be a positive thundering force in the world for the rest of the day. And like, again, repetition is important. The words matter, like what we're saying to ourselves and when we're doing them. And ritualizing that is not a bad thing. But it's also not a miracle, because it's like painting over something like wallpaper. Like, you can paint over it with as many affirmations as you want, but you never tore down the wallpaper. You left the original interpretation on the wall. So if you don't go there and pull it down, sand it down, realize it was actually something else behind the wallpaper, and then paint the new coat over it, you're kind of just like, it's like sweeping stuff under the rug. It's still dirty under your couch. It doesn't matter. You didn't vacuum under there. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, man. It's let me bounce this off you, dude. Another reel that we're making is, and it's we might combine it with the David Goggins. Dude, the real pre-workout for the fitness industry is the victim mentality.
Oh, tell me more.
Dude.
Tell me
Y-
more.
Yeah, I mean, I tanked a flash in the pan MMA career back in the late 90s because I was fueling my workouts with shit ass sentences like, I'm gonna prove them all wrong. You know,
Oh yeah.
no one, they're gonna regret ever doubting me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then all the other stuff like, hey, you fucking pussy, you're not good enough, you're never gonna amount to shit.
Stop
Uh,
being a little bitch.
Stop being a little bitch. All of those are up-regulating in nature. And when your breath gets trapped in your chest and you go and fill in the blank, you're going to hurt yourself, whether
Mm,
it's lifting weights or combat sports or going on a date. Go on a date and hold your breath and let me know how things go.
mm.
And dude, that's like, I left my copy of the DSM-5 up at the house. That's a 1,000-page book of 11 font of nefarious, in my opinion, spells that a lot of that shit could be majorly positively addressed and a lot of it remediated with just better words and better breath. Oh, I have social anxiety disorder. Oh, you mean you're
It's
holding
labels,
your
man.
breath, dude?
It's
You're
identities. It's a big book of identities that someone else
dude.
is giving you. Dude, have you
So
ever seen this story? Hold on. I got a perfect story for this.
yeah,
I read this. I was reading this amazing article on Substack the other day about, there was this huge experiment where they took a bunch of participants, students, right? And they basically, these were normal people, like very happy, like they made sure that they were like, you know, like not suffering from a lot of this stuff, right? And I think I can't remember exactly what they went and checked them in to a psychiatric ward, and all they said was they are, you know, exhibiting signs of, let's say, schizophrenia or whatever, right? And just I mean, the fewest words they could do to diagnose what might be happening, they were very careful that they didn't say they are this. They were saying they're exhibiting signs and they need to be checked in. So these participants got checked into this like mental hospital, and they stayed there for like 8 weeks or something, and nobody told them what was going on.
Ray Charles
And
could see where this is going.
yeah, 100%. And then, but like the staff, the doctors, these most of educated of people, the people that know the 11 font book by heart, fought. Everything they did was to prove that they were this. Like, if they were like, "Hey, I'm not feeling bad today," they're like, "Ah, they're in denial." And then, "Hey, I'm doing this," they're delusional. And they fought hard, and everything was to prove they were doing it. And they would even like try to force them to take medicine and do all this stuff and like have all these things. And like they left these people in there for like 8 weeks, and they came in and they were like, "There's actually nothing wrong with this person. We need to check them out. This was all an experiment." But like, just the even not even the accepting of the label, the accepting of the label from someone else in the community that they were being placed in. And then the people, the most amazing thing about that article was the people by like week 6 or 7 were like, holy shit, I might be schizophrenic. And they weren't, but they were like, get me out of here because I'm starting to believe that. And that the labeling is a damn problem on social media and in psychotherapy, language that we're all learning. Like our parents were actually kind of lucky, I think. We always say, well, they didn't have the tools, they didn't have the language to be able to really get in touch with themselves. And I'm like, good for them, because we have convinced ourselves that we're all crazy and that our partners are crazy and that all our friends are crazy.
Hey, narcissists.
Oh yeah, yeah.
How often
Everyone's a
does,
narcissist.
dude?
Everyone's a narcissist.
It's like one
Everyone.
point. Take out the like. It's 1.8 if I'm remembering the stats correct. 1.8 of the percent of the population are narcissists clinically.
And even those 1.8%, if you go in and break that down, like one point, they could be diagnosed with the what we call narcissism, but even that 1.8% is a spectrum. Like where you have the most literal, like when you think of narcissist, like the person who's killing everyone for their own
Ted
benefit.
Bundy.
Ted Bundy, right? Exactly. Like that's but that even that 1.8%, like some of them are just real, they're just selfish. That's what they are. But they still have families and stuff. They still do things. It just might suck living with them. But dude, you look on find a woman's TikTok, and I guarantee you, every third post will call someone, probably you, man, a narcissist in their life. Yeah,
That's what I. Yes, that's why I brought that up. It is.
avoidant, anxiously attached.
Just no.
Like, like,
How about they're just a spoiled brat? Like, let's
yeah,
bring back
right.
some of
Yeah,
those
maybe.
words.
Yeah.
You're
Maybe
so
there's
entitled.
behavioral things that we could fix that would make them less of that, instead of you are that forever and it's in your DNA, and like then it's over. Curiosity dead. You've been labeled.
There was this page 222. I was talking about this on the workshop of the DSM-5, which is the American Psychiatric Association's Bible, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Volume 5, page 222, top left of the page, the 5 criteria for selective mutism in children. And
Mm,
dude, guess what? Kids are shy sometimes. Let's
yeah,
bring back the word shy. When's the last time you heard somebody talk about someone being shy?
yeah.
Oh, they're
And
just being shy. They'll get over it.
and shy used to also be more like, I mean, I grew up in the '80s, man. Like if
I
someone was
love it.
shy, that was endearing.
Correct.
It wasn't like something they needed to fix. It was just like cute. It was just like that's okay to be shy, as long as you can activate yourself when you need to not be shy, like at a job interview or something like that. That's a learned skill. But I used to think the shy girls were the cute ones, man. I don't know what everybody was thinking, man. Why was that a bad thing? I didn't need the
You and me
party person.
both.
Yeah, man.
It's there's something there's a pull to it.
There's
And
that
then
mystery and
everybody,
that gravity, baby.
yeah,
Mystery.
good
Yeah,
word.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And then everybody who's outgoing now is a narcissist.
Yeah, man, it's crazy,
The
man.
fuck?
Like we went through this amazing season of like,
Dude,
because
the 80s were the best. The 80s were the
the
best.
'80s were the best, man. Because the '80s were like you could be whoever you wanted. You'd get punched in the face every once in a while if you crossed the line, and then you'd learn, and then you'd move on with your life, and no one was like labeled. You know what I'm saying? Like no one was. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's bad things about that too, like actual things that don't get diagnosed. But at the same time, dude, why diagnose it if it's not affecting your
Bro.
life? I'll tell you another one that I hate label wise right now. How do you define regulated? Like you need to be regulated. Like you ever heard a woman say that? Like you need to regulate your emotions. You need to do this. I need to regulate this. I need to regulate that. Like how do you define it?
Well, you can't.
Exactly.
It's an opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, they're dysregulated. Well, what do you mean? Is that your opinion of my emotional status?
I find that when people say that you're dysregulated, it's you are wielding your emotions in a healthy way for you, but it's an emotion that they cannot wield in their own life. So, like, for example, like I'm a very intense person, I'm a very passionate person. And I find when there are people who have suppressed their own passion or suppressed their own intensity, they want to turn my knob down. You know what I'm saying? This is something I've stopped doing. I'm going to be me no matter what. I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to be overbearing. I'm not going to hurt you. But like if I mean something, I'm going to say it. And then I find that when people are like sadness, like there's some people that cannot be in the presence to even witness grief. But like I have honed through feeling. I really lean into grief because I believe that grief is the ultimate expression of love. You cannot grieve something that you did not love fully. So when grief shows up, does it hurt? Hell yes. Does it knock me off my feet? Of course. It's grief. But when that grief moves through me, I have this realization of how much I loved that thing. I actually had this happen one time. I was in a hotel and I had some horrific things happen this year of my life, and but I was just kind of just roaring ahead, trying to outrun the grief a little bit. And I woke up crying, moaning, wailing in the middle of a hotel room. Was totally unattached. I just walked out into the desert in Tucson for about an hour before the sun came up. And dude, cosmic timing, but like I was sitting on this like fence or something I'd found, and I was watching the sun come up over the desert, and I looked down, and someone had drawn a heart right below me, and I didn't even know it was there until the darkness went away. And
Yeah.
I just had all this grief come over me, and like love came over me, and I felt the most amazing feeling I had been locked out of for 40 something years of my life. But then like in another moment, I've had family members who've been going through a period of grief, and you see all these family members disappear because the witnessing of the grief is so bad because that's an emotion they haven't learned how to process yet. So I find that the attack of you're dysregulated comes more when I look at someone and I'm like, you need to calm the fuck down. Like you're dysregulated. I'm like, whoa, wait. What are they doing that I have not learned how to handle yet? That's on me, not as much like on them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely know what you're saying. And people that will label someone a narcissist or that's language under that same umbrella. Oh,
Mm,
they're very dysregulated nervous system. It's like, dude, what? How do you
yeah.
know that? It's like
Yeah.
maybe they don't like what you're doing. Ever thought
Yeah.
that?
It's a box they're putting you in because the box is easier to handle, easier to categorize in your brain of how you should respond to somebody or whatever.
And how to make me superior to you. Like
Mm,
there's a Taoist saying. It said fancy words aren't good and good words aren't fancy.
mm,
Let's get simple again. Hey, she's shy. The person's very outgoing. They're stressed. It's like, okay, well, maybe I am stressed. So
yeah.
what? It's like,
You're
let me
you're
let me
supposed you're supposed to be stressed sometimes, guys.
yeah.
Life is stressful. That's a
So
normal
hey,
human thing. I mean, that's part of why we're here, I think, is like if I can't let myself feel sad and I avoid that, what I find happens to me in my experience is I also can't allow myself to fully enjoy being happy. Because how
hmm,
do I know what happy feels like if I don't have the mirror of the sadness, right? If I don't know pain, if I don't fully experience pain and let it run through me, then how am I going to be open enough to fully experience pleasure or happiness or beauty? You know what I'm saying? And we want to let them go. But like the reason is, I go back to your victimhood thing, is there's no quicker way to become the hero of your story than to make yourself the victim. Because in every story that we read, like the great stories, like the hero's journey stories, the hero's the victim in the beginning. Their parents get killed and set fire by the empire. Their mentor is being corrupted by the ring and it's going to destroy him and everything they know. And like, but I think people forget that there's an ending to the story where the you become not the victim. You stop blaming it on Sauron and Darth Vader, and you take agency in your own hands. Does that make sense?
yeah, I like it. It does. I like it. There's a word that you mentioned, pain. A story comes to mind, and a guy that, and I don't recommend people on podcasts very often. A guy by the name of Jason Turner you'd love interviewing this guy. Your audience would love to hear from him. He runs a, yes, you can call it a rehab facility in San Antonio. And this dude, talk about cutting edge. This guy is taking addicts and turning them into athletes. So
Mm,
he's got on top of the rooms for, and 80% of the work that he does is with, he's one of our level 3 coaches on top of everything else. Helps them with their stories directly. I'll tell you a story about him and a guy with the P word. And then it's the other half of his program. It's a CrossFit gym with sauna and cold plunge, and he just gets people, talk about regulated, dysregulated. He gets people clinically
into the body
in
as
a
deeply as they can
nice,
be.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. And he, every Thursday night, he runs a group, and he had a bunch of not members, but people that he was, people in his program. Was in this room, and he was up at the whiteboard. And what he does is he'll go around and get a sentence for from everybody and write it up on the whiteboard, and then just play with the words. And it was towards the end of the class, and he goes, "Does anybody else have any sentences?" And silence. And then he looked over at one side of the room, nothing. The other side of the room, he turned around, and he's about to put the cap on the pen, and this one guy in the back goes, "I've got a sentence." And he goes, "Cool, what you got?" And the guy goes, I killed my mother."
God.
And he goes, "Right?" "Right." And he goes, "Okay." And so he wrote the sentence, "I killed my mother," up on the board. And as you can imagine, everybody's butthole is super puckered up. And I mean, this is a room full of people that have been to jail wearing anklets. You got their attention.
Mm.
And then he goes, "Okay, well, you mind if I ask some questions?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, sure." And the guy had been drunk for 15 years because of this one story with this one sentence holding the whole thing together. And he goes, did you actually kill your mom?" And he goes, "No, I took her off of life support." And he goes, "Okay."
Wow.
And he goes, "All right, why?" And he said, "She was dying of cancer, and she wanted me, she asked me to. And I had the power of attorney." And he goes, "Okay, do you have any siblings?" And he goes, "Yeah, I do. I've got a brother." "Well, why didn't she ask him to do it?" "Oh, well, the guy's a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "Okay, so I killed my mother." And the guy's like, "Yeah." And he goes, he put an apostrophe on the R, S, and then wrote the word pain after it. And it was like somebody punched that dude right in the face. He
Mm-hmm.
said his eyeballs were going in different directions.
Mm.
You could almost see the steam coming out of his ears.
Mm.
And of course had the emotional reaction to it. There's a little bit more to that story, but that's the gist of it. He went, "I killed my mother to I killed my mother's pain." And then he had to put it, stuck up a cuz on the end of it, and waited for him to answer. "I killed my mother's pain because," silence, silence, "she trusted me to."
Damn. See, man, that is not the same story.
At all.
And that one is actually the real one. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
we get ourselves into these like loops of this stuff, bro, that like, like all women want to hurt me no matter what I do. There's
Yep.
nothing I can do to ever stop that. And now it's like some people want to hurt me. That's okay. I just need to, but many don't. And the ones that don't are willing to die for me or kill for me, basically, because my mom about beat that woman
Yeah.
to death. She was about to go after her. It's like, it was crazy, but you forget the pain. It's like the our brains are trained for worst case scenario, especially men. We are supposed to look for the saber-tooth tiger. So we all, even when things are good, we look for the saber-tooth tiger, but it's really dangerous when you're looking back in your past because you're going to find only the negative, only the pain, only the hurt that comes from that. That reminds me of this amazing joke. my buddy Scott Lamb says this. I'll give him credit. I usually give people credit twice, and then I just act like I made it up. So this time, Scott, you got one more if you're listening out there. He was on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he goes, "There was this buddy of mine was hiring for this position, and this guy came in, and he was a felon, and he said, 'Is there anything else we need to know? You look like a great candidate for this, but is there anything you need to know?' And he goes, 'Yeah, I have a felony. I did serve some time.' And the guy that was hiring said, 'What did you serve time for?' And the guy goes, 'Attempted murder.' And the interviewer immediately ended the interview, said, 'It's not going to be a good fit. We can't do that.' And the guy said, 'Oh, is it because I served time for attempted murder?' And the hiring manager goes, 'No, it's because we only hire people that start what they finish.'" right? It's like that.
Nobody likes a quitter.
Nobody likes a quitter. That's exactly right. Yeah, man, I kill my mom. That's Jesus Christ. Oh man, it's so funny. But the victimhood, dude. Like, I fight it, man. Like, I don't ever want to
Dude,
present myself like I'm. Me and Mark ain't got it figured out. This shit's gonna anything that bad happens to you. Of course, we're like, God, I can't believe they did this to me. You know what I'm saying? But even that, like, I've learned all kinds of ways to combat that with my language. Like,
I can't
like
believe they did this to me. It's like,
I can't,
oh,
I
wait
can't,
a
I can't believe this. That these signs were everywhere that this was coming, right? But even like they did this for me because every time I've ever had a partnership, a business close, or leave a job, it's always led to something better, right? It's just they did this for me, and like, and one of the most powerful reframings in the moment that I've ever learned is I get to do this.
Mm.
Like even when something bad happens, like something like, all right, I get to do this. I get to shut down this company. I get to restart a new company. I get to rebuild something from scratch.
oh,
I get to
winning.
do that. Yeah, I get to do this because you need hedges in your words. Not only you need to be able to go into the past like that guy did, and I killed my mom. I killed my mom's pain. You got to have ways to edit that, but you got to have self editing in the moment too, to not let those things rise up.
Yes, that is a what very very well said. That's a demonstration of skill development
Yeah.
because being able to do that, most people don't know to do that. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
learn. They weren't taught. weren't demonstrated. Wasn't demonstrated. And then okay, you do, and eventually it starts to become a more real time edit. And yeah, what you said, here we like stories of great men, even though this is not about a man. It's about this super cute little 22-year-old Ukrainian yogi over in the UK. So I got brought over to do language work on some yoga teacher training courses, 16, 17, and 18, 2000. And the last one, we were doing this language game. I can't believe, because what I can't believe does, I can't believe they did that to me. I can't believe she said that. I can't believe I ate the whole thing, or worse. It stops people's ability to, no pun intended, digest whatever it is. It keeps people in a state of shock. And so I
Yeah,
had
because
everybody
if you can't believe it, then it can't change because
exactly
it's over. You've completely killed any curiosity of another way when you say that.
1,000%. I had everybody write down that sentence stem. I can't believe it's a room full of 30 yogis and fill in the rest. And I got to this Ukrainian woman and I said, "What's your I can't believe statement?" She said, "I can't believe I flew all the way back to Kiev and my father wouldn't answer his phone." So the backstory was that she was estranged from her dad. She gets into working on herself, messages him, "Hey, Dad, I want to reconnect," after it's like 15 years or something like that. He said yes. She flies from London to the Ukraine, and they had a week there. And so she lands, messages him, nothing day one, nothing day two, three, four, five, six, nothing seven, flies back.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said that sentence. I said, she goes, "I can't believe I flew all the way over to the Ukraine and my father wouldn't answer his phone." I said, "Did you fly over to the Ukraine and your father wouldn't answer his phone?" "Yes." "So because you flew over to the Ukraine and your father didn't answer his phone, can you believe that you flew over there and he didn't answer?" "Yes." "Take out the can't, put in can." "I can
Mm-hmm.
believe I flew over there and my father wouldn't answer his phone." And she did this. Huh. And then started writing. And I moved to the person right next to her and started interacting with them. And about 3 minutes later, she did one of these. Eyeballs got all big. She left, walked out, came back, sat down, started writing more. I'm paying attention to her. A few minutes later, same thing, gets up, leaves, doesn't come back till break. During the break, she came up to me and she goes, I was engaged to a Russian woman once. That's another story. So my Russian impersonation isn't great, and I'm going to give it a shot. She came up to me and she goes, I take out the can't and I put in can, and I see, and I take big breath, and breathe again. And I have to go make big shit 2 times. Go make big shit 2 times. And I'm sitting there biting my face thinking, one, this is hilarious for a variety of reasons. And two, I'm going to be telling this
22-year-old Logie telling you
Yeah.
she's shitting twice. Like,
Deuce it.
whatever.
Double
Just
deuce.
dropping deuce.
Dropping deuces. And it's because there are certain words that trap us in that stress state, trap our breath in our chest. And when you change the words, unlock your breath.
Mm.
And when the breath descends, guess what? Things start moving, including doo-doos.
Yeah. Yeah. This is why people purge a lot during work. Like when they're doing like deep mental work or even like psychedelic assisted therapy happens a lot. Like once things move, everything kind of moves because that energy is like trapped in your body. And like even that thing, I was actually thinking about that can't believe, can believe on something in my head that's, you know, where I'm saying that and some things, it unlocks curiosity as soon as you change it from can't to can. Because if you say, I can believe that I could go to this place and my father wouldn't answer the phone call. Of course, there's more to it, but like what it does is it opens new possibilities. Like, well, I can believe that because I could fly in and he might just be busy. I could fly in and he didn't know I was coming. I didn't tell him beforehand. I can believe it because there's now other reasons for it besides the real underlying belief there, which is I can't believe he wouldn't do it. My father doesn't love me or something, or he didn't want to talk to me or whatever was behind that long time ago belief where he didn't show up for her or whatever, you know? And like if you can get to curiosity, man, I'm telling you, like the IFS system starts with curiosity. Like the fastest way to know if something's going sideways is if no one's curious. If everyone's digging in and everybody's pissed off and everybody's the blaming, the victimhood, all that starts, then we've started building those moats to protect ourselves. And I'm not curious about why you showed up at my door. I'm not curious about your army. I'm just trying to protect the walls as much as possible because it feels like something bad's about to happen. But that simple shift from and it's not about toxic positivity either, guys. I'm not saying you should be like, hey, I've got cancer and my leg got amputated in a car wreck and my dog bit me and I got rabies and now I'm in the hospital. Yeah, that sucks, man. There's no like, you know what? But I'm keeping a positive attitude forever. No, sometimes you got to suffer and like deal with it. But like it is that the opening the door back to something else could be happening, right? And allowing yourself to do that because then the story is, I feel bad. My father doesn't love me. And now that's what carries with you instead of, something happened. I'll talk to him later, maybe, hopefully. If not, whatever. It'll turn out good.
That keeping the story small, blow the story up, suffer. Keep the story small, win. Underthink it. Kids, again, you know, we can trauma bond some more about how great the 80s were in a second. They have a name for this, man. They call it retard maxing.
Yeah. That's what my son, my son and daughter both say that right now. You know what I'm saying?
What are they talking about? Just underthink it.
Yeah. No, I don't know if I've ever heard the word underthink it said out loud. I've seen this version. I've seen, you know, I overthink everything. Oh crap, now you're overthinking everything. Or hey, if you're gonna overthink it bad, overthink it good.
Yeah.
You ever heard that one before too? But it's like, why not just underthink it and avoid the because 99% of the stuff we're overthinking doesn't actually matter or happen, right? It just is.
That's
and
a generous number.
Yeah, totally, man. If you underthink it, it's like, I'm not going to create a story around this today. We're going to put down the pen. We're going to let it go. You know? Yeah.
80s. I drove through Steamboat. It was about 3 weeks ago, and met up with my college girlfriend. Super cool girl, and she's got 4 lovely kids. Married a great dude. They're a surf family. He's a travel doctor. They live a very adventurous life. And I'd seen her in 5 or 6 years, so we were catching up and stayed for dinner. And I was talking to her 16-year-old son, and we were just talking about how different things are. And he's like, they're not that different. And I'm like, you know, do you all get in street fights? Do you all get in fights? He was a lacrosse guy. And he's like, yeah, you know, we fight on the team, you know, John and Wesley, they'll fight each. I'm like, with bad intent.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Strangers with bad intent
strange.
on top
Exactly.
of it. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I'm like, no, you don't, because you got these things. You got phones and
Mm.
stuff. And he's like, well, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let me pull out my trump card. When's the last time that you and your friends grabbed your BB guns after breakfast and walked out of the house and didn't come back till dinner and nobody called the cops on you?
Yeah.
When
Oh yeah.
when's the last Shane? When's the last time you saw some kids, some 12-year-old boys? I'm crushing Zins too. I love them. 12-year-old boys walking around with BB guns.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I have a scar on the back of my leg. This is no lie. This is a game we used to play in the 80s. My
I
older
love this
brother,
shit.
he was 9 years older than me, so it was like I had no chance
Damn.
from birth. I got another brother. I My brothers are 19 years older than me, 18 years older than me, 9 years older than me, and 4 years younger than me. So like
Damn.
I was born into a world of grown ass men that I had to fight with. I was like one of those deer that fall out of their mom and is like, walk fast. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Or die.
or die. And my brother, I don't know why he used to do this. It was so fun though. He was like, hey man, I'm gonna give you 7 seconds to get around Granny's house, and then I'm gonna open fire. And I always knew that he was gonna do it at 5. Yeah, but there was still a challenge in doing it. And I have a scar on the back of my calf one time when he lit me up, right, with that BB gun, man. And we used to have this other. We played King of the Hill, where one of us would stand on top of this hill, and there was this grown-up field and this old abandoned house by my buddy's house. It was my cousin, and we would all we would put glasses on to protect our eyes, but we had like those flimsy Bret Hart like
Oh, nice.
80s glasses on that you could spit through.
Yeah.
Basically, it was like worse than the masks they made us wear in COVID, and like we had to put those on our eyes, and we would try to get to the top of the hill and tag him while he was shooting at us.
Oh God.
And I'm like, now that does seem horrible, and I'm also like, yeah, good times. You know what I'm saying? But like it was a different world, man. Back then, we
Bro.
we didn't have the internet, kids. Okay, we didn't have the sum of all
Thank
human knowledge in our pockets. If someone said
God.
how old is, if someone said where's Tom Petty from, you just didn't know until you ran into someone 20 years later and they said Michigan or wherever he was from. I don't even know if that's true. Fact check me on that one. But like, yeah, man, it built a different human. It just
Big
built a different
time.
kind of human, man.
When's
Yeah.
when's the last time you seen kids get in a bottle rocket war?
Oh, dude, we used to have on 4th of July in this old baseball field. No, this is for real. Like, you're triggering my nostalgia now. We every year at this place called Tattersall. We would go out to Tattersall, and everyone you'd have 100 dudes running around that place with bottle rockets, Roman
Heaven.
candles, throwing black cats at each other. And I remember one time we got don't or maybe some of this stuff we should leave behind. But we got in my buddy's Rav 4, and we come roaring out of the parking lot, drove over the hill, down into the thing. We're doing donuts with 3 of us hanging out the windows, shooting not bottle rockets. What are they called? Roman candles, like they were machines. And it was just the thing. Like the parents would
Dude.
come watch us do it. They would sit in chairs like a soccer game, and they would watch us do this. That is an actual thing that happened to me in the 80s and 90s, man. Yeah, dude.
The vibe of something like that.
It's different, bro. It is harder to have a victim mentality when you've taken a bottle rocket to the neck, and and it was kind of like you permitted the guy to do it, like you agreed to this trial by combat, and then afterwards you shake hands. It's just like right there in your face, man.
Greatest decade.
Yeah, people born in the 80s and grew up in the late 80s, early 90s got the best of all worlds. We got the water hose, and we got the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We got all the flow, all the current. And now it's our job to pass some of that wisdom to these knuckleheads that we're dealing with like right now, like in our houses at all times. Yeah. My son gets it. He gets it more because, we try to teach him especially the victim stuff. Like you just can't blame anybody. Like that brings me kind of to one of my final questions here is like, I think about those times, and we can sit on our front porch and say, get off my lawn all we want, but like, whatever. I think about those times. What I do see there was I was always surrounded by other guys back
Mm.
then. And as I observe the way that people interact now, like other men, you know, especially the millennials and maybe a little farther back, they're not surrounded by men. Doesn't mean they don't have friends. Doesn't mean they don't have guys they text or talk to or whatever. But there was this proximity, this physical proximity around other men that I think that we've lost and our sons are losing. What do you think the benefit? Because you're a coach, I'm a coach. Like getting people in space, human to human talking, whether it's retreats, Zoom, whatever, but like that physical surrounding by men, like guys ahead of you that are coaching and mentoring you, your peers who are vulnerable enough to talk about the same shit you're going through. And then I think, man, like I think every man's a coach. Like every man
Mm.
needs all three of those tiers, man. You need guys ahead of you, not that you necessarily aspire to be like, but guys that can breathe some context into your life. You need guys around you who can breathe the struggle into your life so that you see other guys struggle. And you need the competence to be able to breathe into other men that might be behind you a chapter or two. You know, it's one thing to say, I have to self author and rewrite the story, but I'm not sure that you can do that without other like people around you. I just don't think that that's possible if you're not existing in all three of those kind of fronts.
I mean, community, you know, a lack of community will create all kinds of strange, weird problems.
Yeah,
And then being in community will remediate all kinds of strange and weird problems. Words about that vital,
mm,
crucial, and most guys don't need a lot of that.
totally. Yeah,
You know, a little bit of that, and then also just in the back of your head, knowing, man, I got a handful of dudes that I can call if I fucking need.
yeah, yeah. 2 a.m. Where we going? Don't ask. I'll see you
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Just knowing those guys are in your back pocket, you probably never even need them, but they're there. And so
correct,
many men don't have that, bro. They just do not
correct.
have it right now, man. Yep. It's the reason we started this community was to get more guys like that in the room, you know? And like, and also too, like authors, like just to close this loop on this analogy of the writing, the slowing down the story, the identifying the story in your head. If you're not in community, then your brain is going to be making up more stories. And like, if I'm a writer, like I write books, I do these things, but like I read, man. I read other works of philosophy. I read other works of manhood. I don't care who it is too. I don't care if I disagree with. I watch David Goggins. I watch, Garrett White. I watch even the people I disagree with sometimes. And like because it gives me more vocabulary. It gives me wrestling with to help make those decisions. And when I go on a retreat or I go on a guy's trip or I go out with my boys and I hear their stories, I can come back and write a better story for myself.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm gonna call Gursey and say thank you.
That it did, bro. 100% did. Because we could probably keep going for like 9 more hours just sitting here thinking and pondering about this stuff. But this is a good one for you, man. I ask everybody this at the end of the show. You spent a large portion of your life going deep with thousands of people, many of them men, like helping them rewrite stories, that were keeping them small. And then of course you have your own story, bro. You're a dude, you're going out, you're living your life, you're in the struggle, you're in the success, you're in all the different things. But like, with all that context, like what does greatness mean for Mark England? But not just like greatness like you're trying to be like somebody. Like what's greatness on your terms for your life look like?
Finishing what I said I would.
Mm,
Yeah. And I have a couple of those things in with the Enlifted work. I'm going to certify 1,000 coaches or deliver 100 level one certifications. There's 10 people in each cert. If we fill them up, whether I had 1,000, I'm going to deliver 100 level one certifications. We're on group in the middle of group 55. Been doing that for
mm.
7 years. Take me another 6 or 7 to get the rest. That's a very important metric to me.
I love that you put something measurable in there. That's something a
Yeah.
lot of guys forget to put in. You know what I'm saying? You have the that was very philosophical. That was great. Yeah, I finished what I say it with. That's amazing. And then you added measurement to it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to underthinking, that's how I do that. I underthink it and then
Mm,
do it.
mm.
And then another one, I've been doing this work for 19 years full time. Richard Bandler story. Do you know who Richard Bandler is?
I
One of
do
the
not.
co-founders of NLP.
Oh, well, I know I know NLP. I'm a student of the game, baby. Yeah, for
Yeah.
my speaking career, for sure.
I went and did my practitioner certificate with him in 2011 and went back and did my master's practitioner with him. And the training was what it was. It was a volume thing. I don't use anything in there. I didn't go there to I was open, but I didn't go there to pick up new techniques anywhere near as much. I just wanted to be in the same room with the guy.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know, I wanted to see him work. And I did. And he was on stage, and this was 2012, so I've been doing it for 5 years at the time. And he goes, I've been doing this shit for 40 fucking years. Did it just like that. And he's all grizzled as hell and stuck his hand up like that. And I thought to myself, I was like, I wonder what that feels like.
Mm.
I wonder what it feels like to do something for 40 years. And I walked out of there with that question. That was what I got out of that. And fast forward to our TEDx talk in 2017, crushed it, got off stage, went back to the hotel room and just stared at the wall. And I was like, this is everything that I want as far as my interest level, my gas tank for it, the adventure it takes me on, the meaning that it gives. I was like, I'm going to do this work for 50.
Oh, wow.
And I went into my calendar. It's still in there. And I scrolled down to January 17th, January 17, 2057. And put in there, it's my last day of work because I started January 17th, 2007. And so I've got those two metrics. Those are my two main metrics.
How old will you be?
I'll be 80
Oh, beautiful, man. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it, dude.
because I can sit here and breathe and ask questions for a very long time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
basically what we do
Totally,
with
man.
Enlifted.
And that's kind of there's a conclusion that I have made when I talk to so many great men, man. I'm just so blessed with dudes that are in my life that like Marcus introducing me to you, like just our friendship, like everything. And I have noticed, which is kind of what we've been talking about in the story thing, is if a man doesn't aim at something, he will aim inward at himself, and that's where the problem starts. And not just aim in to go in and learn and grow and healthy and be good, but that overthinking. And like by aiming at that date, by aiming at finishing what you say you're going to do, and by measuring your progress, but there's not anything in there that's going to like guilt you because you missed something along the way. You're just moving toward the aim. And I think if more good men would aim and underthink, then they would probably build a great life on their terms and be a lot happier. Man, what a great conversation, Mark. Dude,
Agreed.
before we go, man, just where can people find more about you if they want to reach out, talk to you more about what you do, and how can they find you online?
Two places. Enlifted.me. That's our website about the Enlifted coaching certifications. And then Instagram at Enlifted Coaches. I answer everything that goes in and out of there. I run that account. So if you have any questions or comments about anything that you heard us discuss on this show, hit me up and we can talk about it.
We're going to get that back, and we're going to run this back at some point and
Amen.
bring Marcus on with
Oh,
us.
dude, yes.
Yeah, because nobody can get enough Marcus Gersey in their life, bro. Nobody. I'm taking him out to a guys trip in Colorado for 4 days. I'm about to. I'm just gonna lock. I'm gonna be like, you're only allowed to talk to me. Sit down by the fire. I
He's the
appreciate you, brother,
best.
man. Thanks for being on the show, dude.
Thank you, Shane.
All right, y'all. That wraps up my interview with Mark England. What a great guy, deep philosophical guy. I love guys like that around the fire smoking cigars, man, where we can go deep. You got to go deep to find the gold, boys. You can't just have this superficial life for the rest of your life. Like, you got to get deep. You got to think about these things. And, I want to challenge everybody to listen to the podcast today to challenge your stories. Whatever's holding you back, man, that's what I found in my life. It's always a story. And then it's the remembrance that you are the author of your own story. And it's a lot easier to do that when you're around other great men, like the guys you hear on this podcast and the guys over in the Great Men Brotherhood. If you're looking for a group of guys that you can go deep with, all you have to do is go to greatmen.org, and you can join the Great Men Brotherhood. We have an awesome online community. We do a lot of live events throughout the year where we get together in person because proximity is power. So head over to greatmen.org right now. You can join for free. There's a free tier of membership that gets you some weekly meetups. It's going to get you full access to everything that we're doing in there in the Great Men Project and the Great Men Forums. We want to know how you're feeling. We want to know what you're creating, and we want to support you as you do it. That's greatmen.org. Scroll down to the bottom. You can join for free. Also, if you're getting some value out of the Great Men podcast, please do me a favor so that we can reach other men with our message, so we can bring more brothers into the community for you to be able to go in and have access to help you build a great life on your terms. Wherever you listen to podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. Put a comment in there to tell us what you love about the show. As we grow the podcast, we can get more great men on here for you to glean that wisdom from. That's all the time I got for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'll be back next week with another great man. Until then, go out there and build a great life on your terms. I'll see you next time.